Good evening, Meghna, our esteemed panelists for the day, and all the attendees. A very warm welcome to the Be Singular Social webinar series. I'm Shweta, your host for the evening, and I'll be starting with telling you a little bit about Be Singular. Be Singular is a unique learning platform that empowers the next generation to create a real and responsible impact in the world by working with technologies of the future. A Future Skills Academy for Kids, which is a best group promoted venture. The entire team at Be Singular is driven by a massively transformative purpose to transform the education space and impact learning possibilities for next generation students. We all realize that the world of the future is going to be drastically different from what it is today, and the entire genesis of Be Singular is based on preparing students for those possibilities and a change scenario. We run courses in robotics and drones, artificial intelligence, programming, 3D printing, Internet of Things, AR and VR. The methodology of operation is through Be Singular Exponential Leaders Club, which is only for a community of students who are big dreamers, have a forward-looking approach, and possess the belief of solving global great challenges and help to make a positive impact. It's a unique kind of a platform which will provide a tribe of students who can share their experiences and foster ingenuity, which will benefit not only their generation, but also future ones. We also run online classes. These are structured online programs in various exponential technology domains. Be Singular Social is a non-profit arm of Be Singular. It has been launched in association with the Banyan, which is a leading daycare corporate center chain. The Banyan operates in various corporates and empowers women to be able to come back to work by taking care of their children while they are at the workplace. Our speaker for today is Meghna. Meghna is going to be speaking on art appreciation for kids. She'll be touching upon various topics like what is art, the difference between conceptual and realistic art, realism, pop art, abstract art, what could be the dimensions of art, and various fun exercises to make it an interactive, engaging session. It has been a wonderful experience interacting with her pre-webinar, and I am really looking forward to a wonderful session where she's going to be talking about her experience of hosting various illustrious personalities from across the globe at her gallery at Kolkata. Over to you, Meghna.
So hi everybody. I don't know if you all can see me yet. I'm just still trying to adjust the setup here so that I can start with my presentation. Apologies for the background. I have no other way to talk to you guys, but my setup is such that I need to be on the desktop. So I hope all of you are making good use of your time at this, COVID-19, and all of you are keeping safe and home. And I think the fact that all of you are here says that, yes, you're making very good use of your time to learn something new. So without much waste of time, I'm going to get to the heart of things, and just give me a moment before I can just get my screen on to you guys. Okay, hi everybody. Just a reconfirmation that you all can actually see me and see the presentation.
Yes.
All right, great. So let's start off. My name is Meghna Agarwala. I'm the founder and director of Gallery Kolkata, like Shweta's already introduced me. And I'm going to keep this a light and fun session because there are a lot of children who have enrolled, and it is primarily for them to keep them occupied. So let's start off, people. What is art? Do you think the image on the left with a banana which is taped on the wall, you think that is art, or the one on the right hand side is art? Can I see panelists answering this question somewhere, Siddharth?
No, no, Meghna. And
Okay.
you are live, so we will need to keep the background shut, please. The people moving around in the background.
Oh, okay. Sorry. But can I interact with the attendees?
No, we told you that it will be a Q&A session at the end of it, so they will be sending
All
their
right.
questions.
All right. All right.
And you are live. All
Okay.
of this they can view.
All right. No problem. No problem. Sorry, folks. So what do you think is art? Is the one on the left-hand side art, or the one on the right-hand side, a painting, a portrait of a woman, is that art? Like, I know most of you would say no, the one on the right-hand side is art. But to tell you, both of it is art. So one of them is a conceptual art, and the other is a portrait and realistic art. So what is conceptual art? Where does conceptual art originate from? So this was a movement which happened way back when artists got fed up of just imitating reality. What art really was and what we know it as these days is when we start painting, what do we paint? We will paint what we see, right? What is realistic to us. We'll paint what we can see, what we understand, and that is realistic art. But these artists got fed up of doing realistic art, and they were the ones who said, no, we just do not want to, we so do not want to follow what we can see and what everybody knows it is. We want to do something that we can think about. So where did this start, conceptual art? It was pioneered by a French-American artist called Marcel Duchamp. And it was a movement. This movement was called Dada, the Dada movement of art. And it questioned the long-held assumption that art resembles reality. So art is not only a portrait or a landscape or a one of these things that we can see, still life, etc. It is also a banana taped on a wall. So these artists brought about that movement where they were interested in ideas and not visual products. And so Dada used this. Dada was a concept where they used ready-made objects to project as art. And what is that? What is banana? It is a ready-made thing that you can just go get it from the market and project and show it as art, as an idea, as a concept. So a very famous when the most unique and the oldest form of Dada art was started by, like I said, the Marcel Duchamp. And the first object that he made and put it as art, sorry, he didn't make it, but he bought from the market and put it as art, was this urinal. So this, he just got a urinal and he just turned it over, he signed it, he dated it, and he just named this whole concept fountain. Now, how many of us would say this is art? So how many of us would say that this is art? Most of us would be like, how bizarre is this? Why a urinal? And we'll take it as art and actually appreciate it. And this happens to be in the collection of some museum. What bullshit is this? But it did go on to become a movement where a lot of artists started discarding realistic art, portraiture art, landscape art, anything that they could see, and started working with concepts. So today, if you walk into any museum, if you walk into any art exhibition, if you walk around, you can let your imagination run wild and have a concept behind your artwork, rather than painting something which is real. Now, what is realistic art? In the previous images, we had seen this portrait of a woman, which is realistic art. This is something where a woman is posing, she's sitting, an artist is perhaps painted her, right? So this is realism. What is realistic art? It imitates reality. It's seeing an object and painting it. it is easy to relate to. We all can see a woman and relate to a woman, right? It's everyday objects and sceneries which are around us. It could be portraitures, human figures and houses, landscapes, trees and flowers around us, or everyday objects that we use like chairs and tables and vases, utensils, pots, anything. That's called realistic art. Now, what are the different kinds of realistic art? We have on top a still life, and we have two women below. So the one which is below is portraits. It's because it is a portrait of a person, is called portraits. And still life is above, the painting above, which is an assembling of objects which don't really particularly are human, but they have life, but at the same time it's still, there is no movement in them. So that these are the two kinds, two kinds of realistic art. Apart from landscapes, landscapes are again another form of realistic art, right? You see, you go out and you sit down and you start painting what you see. It's a landscape, it's a beautiful river, there are trees around. All of us have done landscapes, right? What we start off painting is really the mountains, the sun, the houses, and a couple of figures around it, right? So that is realistic art. We've been painting realistic art from our childhood because that is something that we can relate to the easiest. Now, what do you think? What kind of art is this? Is this realistic? Is this a landscape art? Or is it both? I know you can't answer back, but just think about it. While I'll tell you that this is both a realistic art as well as a landscape art. It's realistic because you can relate to this, and it's landscape, so comes under the realistic art category. So it's both realistic and landscape.
Meghna, do you want to switch on your webcam?
I don't know. I can't see myself.
Okay, carry on.
Just a moment.
What art is this? Is where you are.
So do you think people, again, have come to this image? There is a famous actress, and there is a painting of her behind her with the artist. So what do you think? Do you think this is realistic art? Yes, this is very much realistic art. Why? Because it deals with figures and it deals with somebody who's a living being. Moreover, it's just a human being, so it's realistic. So let me come to the next slide. Oh yeah. Okay. So that is realistic art. Now some paintings are bright and some are not. Why? Do you know the use of colors in art and how it impacts a painting? So because an artwork can convey the mood of a painting, what the artist is trying to say. So how many of us feel that if we sit to draw or if we see a really bright painting, we think that perhaps the artist at that point was in a lively environment or was not going through sort of any deep, sort of emotions, which is true, right? Because when they make darker paintings, right? The colors change. So on the left is a work by Picasso, a very famous painter, and on the right is a work by Roy Lichtenstein, a very famous artist. And you can see that Roy made this painting at the time where America was really prospering. There was a lot of prosperity, people were happy, there was pop culture, people were buying things, there was consumerism, so they were shopping, enjoying themselves. So this kind of depicted, the colors depict that kind of happy mood, you know, of the people. And what about this? Again, do you think that the artist's mental state makes him choose the colors? Perhaps yes. This is by Leonardo da Vinci, and when he painted it, he was in a more somber mood. So when do they choose bright colors? When they're more upbeat and happy, perhaps, right? Now, the exact opposite of realistic art is abstract art. Like a lot of us children also start off, they don't want to do figures, they just splash colors on the canvas, on the paper, and they're just blobs of color. And we think that that is not art. We debate a lot of paintings that are sold today that this is not art and it doesn't warrant the kind of price it fetches. But no, that is also art. And where did this abstract form of art start? What is abstract art? It started as a movement which was called abstract expressionism. And this was a movement that started in New York City around the year 1920s and 1930s. Artists were like, they were fed up of figures, painting realistic art, and they started considering painting figures and human figures and figures of women outdated. That they started saying, oh my God, this is so done. It's such an outdated concept. Don't we all like find outdated things horrible? Like if we have to pay, if our parents make us wear clothes which are like, which was last season or something that is not in fashion, we don't want to wear it, right? So things get out of fashion in art too. So here these artists were like, oh my God, this is so overdone, all the figures, all the landscapes, all the things that we can see. What is great about it? We don't want to do figures, we just want to play with colors. So comes out abstract art. And so these artists, they started exploring and creating abstract art with different mediums, different kind of paints. They didn't necessarily use just paints, like proper paints. They could also use tar. They could use paints that were used for painting houses. They could use various other elements. They could find maybe twigs from trees and make push that also into their painting. And a lot of times these paintings were huge. So they were so big that the artist really needed to actually just put it on the ground and paint on the ground, like on the floor. The canvas would be on the floor, or the paper would be on the floor, and the artist would go all around it and paint, and see how it comes out. So one of the biggest artists of abstract expressionists was Jackson Pollock. He was literally the person that started this movement, which was called, and this is like what I was explaining to you. He never really made the easel, and he never put his painting on the frame and put it. But when he painted it, it was on the ground with lots of splashes of colors all over. So he really played with his paintings. And we would feel that maybe these artists didn't have a method and they just put, like, that's what we feel, right, about abstract art, that, oh my God, these are people who just throw any amount of color on the canvas and it is considered art. What rubbish. But no, these were big artists who actually had a method and they were trying to say something, but through abstractism. So what are the types of realistic and abstract art? Can it be a crossover? So we see many a times, we see artworks that also are abstract, but at the same time you see that there is some kind of structure, and you see like a figure coming out from somewhere, and so you wonder, what is this? Sometimes we feel like, is this realistic or is this abstract? Because it's not completely realistic. Maybe you can't like completely make out the eyes, the nose, or like a very clear image of a tree or a clear image of a flower or anything, but at the same time it's not completely abstract either. So can there be a crossover? Like this painting, for example. This was by an artist, by American-born artist, American artist who was born in Netherlands. And he started off with painting figurative works. But when he came to New York, at that time, the movement, the whole scenario, the whole, what was in fashion, what was going on in the art world was all abstract art. You know, everybody was painting abstract. They were listening to jazz music, and they didn't want any form. All the art critics and all the people who knew about art, they thought, oh my God, it's so outdated to have figures in your paintings, right? So he also started painting abstract art. So you will see all the other around the painting, around this figure, it's all abstract art. But at the same time, he a few figures would creep into his work. Why? Because he was primarily a figurative artist. So sometimes when this happened, he was also shunned by the abstract artists and saying like, why have you put the figure? You have, this is not done. But many times he painted just abstract, and sometimes these figures would creep in. Now this is, what would you say this is? This is an abstract art, right? We cannot make head nor tail of what is going on in this painting. Now let me tell you what this painting is and how it came about. Now this artist called Franz Line, and he used to make figurative art. So he would paint figures, he would paint chairs, he would paint different objects. He was just a normal figurative artist. So when this movement was going on, what he did was he projected one of his paintings, the image of one of his paintings of the chair onto the wall with a big projector, and taking out a portion of it, the shadow that came out was completely abstract. And he was like, oh my God, this is such an interesting image, which comes out of a realistic object, but but in another form, it comes out in an abstract form. And what he started doing was painting that abstraction into the canvas, right? So interesting, right, people? So you may have a pen in hand and you may not want to paint the pen, but you might just want to take the shadow of the pen and paint that whole abstraction. You know, if you enlarge the shadow of the pen and you paint a portion of it, it would be abstract art. So this is what this particular artist started doing, which was actually realistic but abstraction. So it was also part of that movement. Now coming to another art, this is a very famous painting, but what is it? I mean, what is this painting? How can a watch? How can a watch look like this? It's melting like a candle. Do you think that is, humanly possible? We've lived in this life for so many years. Have you ever seen a watch like this? That it starts just melting away? So what exactly is this? So this was a movement called surrealism. Now tell me something. In your mind, when you're in your dreams, don't you think anything can happen? When we dream, don't you think we have such bizarre, such absurd dreams that sometimes you can't make, like, it's not real, that something like that can't exist in reality, right? So that, where does that come from? That comes from your subconscious, your conscious mind and subconscious mind. So your subconscious mind is something that you're not aware of. You just may have it there, but you don't know and you can't feel it. So all these things come to you when you're dreaming. When you are like in your subconscious state, all these elements come out. That is why your dreams are so colorful. Your chairs may be flying in your dreams. Your mom may be like wearing military clothes, which she doesn't usually wear. Your father could be doing something which he doesn't really do. And you could look like a Barbie doll. Anything is possible in a dream, right? So this whole concept, this was a group of artists who said, like, look, I think there's so much more to art. I mean, I want to paint what are these dreams that come to me, these objects in my dreams that come to me, which is so interesting and they're so unique and they're so different, So we want to paint that. So these group of artists started painting their dreams, their subconscious minds, things that, and they were very influenced by the psychologist Sigmund Freud. If I mean, most of the adults would know Sigmund Freud. I don't know the age group of children who have enrolled right now, but they're supposed to be over 13. I don't know in school if you're learning about Sigmund Freud, but if you have psychology, Sigmund Freud was one of the biggest psychologists who gave us various important answers to what goes on around us. For example, like how many mothers are crazy about their sons? Usually you will see that mummies are all crazy about their sons and papas are all crazy about their daughters, right? And the daughters are crazy about their papas and the sons are crazy about their mamas. So why are the sons called mama boys and not papa boys? And why is the girl called a daddy's girl and not a mummy's girl? So there's a reason. This was said by Sigmund Freud, who was the psychologist who said that it is the Oedipus complex where the opposite sex gets attracted to the opposite sex. There's a relation, there's a sort of a affinity for a mother to be closer to her son and a father to be closer to his daughter. So this all comes, these are all these psychologists, this was all taken out by Sigmund Freud. So all these artists started following Sigmund Freud and going through his talks and started painting dreams basically. This is one of the most famous artists of this movement, surrealism movement. Surrealism is what? It is not real. That is why it's called surreal. Realism is what? What is real, what we can see, what is. We have a woman with a nose and an eyes and a hand, 2 legs. We can see it. We have chairs which have like 4 legs. We can see a car, we can see birds. But surrealism is something that is not real. That is just a figment of your subconscious mind. So Salvador Dali was a Spanish painter who was one of the most famous artists of this movement. So now in this painting, if you see, there's a figure which is on top, like it is literally on this, like it's flying, kind of flying. There is some connection which is going down and there's some people on the ground. So do you think like a half bust figure like this can actually fly or like be midair? No, right? So this is all surrealism. Coming back to the painting I showed you in the beginning, this is a very, very, very famous painting by Salvador Dali, and this was called The Persistence of Memory. And this is a painting which took like people by rage when it was displayed. Everybody was going crazy. They had not seen anything like this. They're all used to seeing landscapes and real people, and this was something that took like all art lovers and all art followers by storm. They were like, oh my god, what is this? They were so fascinated. They were so fascinated to understand that this is something that comes from your subconscious mind, it comes from your dreams. And Dali became so famous, and these were large scale paintings, and that was a movement of surrealism. We also see a lot of Indian artists. When you see anything that is not real, it is imaginary, you can easily now say that, okay, this comes from surrealism. This is something that is not possible, but it can come from the figment of your dreams and your subconscious mind, and so it's surrealism. Okay, over to the next slide. Now we come to pop art. What was pop art? Now, after the World War II, I'm not going to make it very heavy because they're kids. I'm just going to tell you bits of it, that after the World War, America was, like I said, they were enjoying, like I showed you a painting in the beginning by Roy Lichtenstein, and I said that they were colorful paintings. And why probably they were colorful? Because they were made at a time where the country was prospering, people were prospering, there was a lot of money, there was a lot of growth, people were buying a lot of things, they were shopping, they were happy. So perhaps that is why their colors were bright. So this time gave rise to a movement called pop art, because people were listening to music like rock and roll. All of us know, right? What is rock and roll? Bowl baby bowl. So children, we know what is rock and roll. You can Google back and see what what rock and roll was. Children were getting rebellious, and they were using a lot of pop music and art to express themselves. And Marilyn Monroe at that time, a film actress, became a very big icon. She was like one of the biggest film stars. So what these artists who were painting pop art, they mirrored what was around them. They mirrored that mass consumerism was very prevalent at that time. People were buying a lot of things, like if they were buying clothes, they were buying a lot of things. There was a lot of production in the factories and everything. And so the artists started painting what they were seeing around them, and so basically, a few things about pop art is it started from 1950 to 1960. American moved to suburbs. There was a lot of housing available, and they were buying a lot of things. The television came into being, and it replaced the radio. At one time, people could just listen to the radio, right? Then came television, and this was the time that television came. People could see see images, right? And the two biggest artists of this pop art were Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein, who we are going to talk about in the next slide. Now, this is what a painting by Andy Warhol looks like. Why he made this image? What is this image? This is the image of Marilyn Monroe, a film actress. In today's time, when I showed you earlier, if you remember my earlier slides, remember there was a Vidya Balan painting which was which was painted. She's a famous actress of today's times, and at that time in America, Marilyn Monroe was one of the most famous artists. So why did the artist put her image in the painting? Because they were trying to imitate reality and show as is where is, like what are the things that were popular at that time. They were trying to bring that imagery to art. So this was one imagery and today if you go and see, you will see a lot of imitations and what would you say, a lot of inspirations from pop art all around. Now if you start noticing, if you go to the market, you will notice cushions, bright cushions. Then they have these kind of imagery. You will know immediately that they are that this is pop art and where it originated from. These are not something that is done by artists of today, but this is actually done and formed by artists from 1950 to 1960 in America, and this was the pop movement. Now something like this, like what is this? I don't know if you can see the image clearly. These are cans of soup. So when there was a lot of shopping, when you go to the supermarket, when you go to Spencer's, when you go to shop, you see like all cans are put in one place, all Maggie packet noodles are put in one place, all the things like all the chocolates are put in one place. Now what the artists started doing, they used to go to the malls and they saw all this consumerism that people are just buying. They said, okay, why not paint this? So even like they started painting cans of soups. They just got that and like, okay. And of course it became art. It just doesn't become art like that. There's a story behind how it became art, but for now they started painting all these things, and you can go and try painting perhaps a packet of Maggi noodles or anything that you fancy, a wrapper of some chocolate or whatever you want. Try it, make it in different colors, make the same imagery but in different colors, and you will have your own Andy Warhol painting. Another famous artist I spoke about was pop artist was Roy Lichtenstein. Now what he started, like this is his style. So he merged cartoons with art. So children, all the kids who are really fond of cartoon, that is also art. It is not that cartooning is not art, and this was made prevalent by Roy Lichtenstein and artists like him, who actually used imageries of cartoons in their work. And so he was also an icon of pop art, and basically he started doing commercial printing. So this pop art was a little bit more commercial. It was not only that, okay, there's just one painting, Mona Lisa, and it is worth so many we know that sometimes only one painting of an artist is so expensive, and there's just one painting. But they were like, no, we are not going to go into just one painting. That period was where there was a lot of mass production of things. There were lots of things available. People were buying clothes, soup cans, eatables, cars. So like there was so much of everything. So they said, why not have so much of art as well? So it was more, started with that movement where there was a mass production of things. And that is why it was not left to just like one painting. So what they did was actually many times painted it and printed it. And so you know how it is with prints today. When you have a digital camera, today we are also doing the same thing. We can print a lot, many images, right? And today, I mean, those were the times when we didn't have these filters. Today we have something similar, right? We have filters, so we can have a black and white picture, we can have the same picture in sepia, we can have the same picture in pop art. Now when you go back to your phones, smartphones, you will notice that if it says pop picture, you will know what pop picture is going to look like. It's going to look a lot like Andy Warhol's painting, where they'll have yellow and bright colors, right? So we have the same facility now in our smartphones in the digital world, but at that time they did it by screen printing and other methods. So now there's an small exercise for all of you. I would love you to make a self-portrait of yourself in the Roy Lichtenstein's pop style. Okay, so you can have yourself, make yourself like, if you're young, you're fond of playing basketball, you can go make yourself like with a ball like this. And if you are a reader, you can just make something like this and, have a book in your hand. And if you're a thinker, you could do something like this. For the men, they can have their own thing. You want to play football, you make your imagery with a football or whatever, and add a little bit of a script of what you're thinking. And voila, you have this painting which you can display in your house, which looks which is the same style as Roy Lichtenstein. So this is an exercise I would love you all to do. And if you can share what you all painted later with me, I will leave my email ID. That'd be brilliant. And for Andy Warhol, you could try something as simple as this, you have paint in your hand, paint it on different color papers, and see, you have an Andy Warhol, and you can get as creative as you want and make your own Andy Warhol painting. So now you know where this image comes from. What style is this? This is an Indian artist. This is a heroine we all know, Vidya Balan, and this artist painted her in the Andy Warhol style, which is pop art. In the style of pop art, he made Vidya Balan the film actress. Just like Andy Warhol had made Marilyn Monroe, he made Vidya Balan. So you can see that all the images are the same, but then different colors, right? So now when you see something like this, even when you see things around you, you'll be able to immediately say that, oh, this is pop art. When you see something with cartoon, and this pop colors, you'll be able to say, oh my God, this is taken from Roy Lichtenstein's style of art. So what are the things that we have discussed up till now? Let's just do a run through. We discussed what is conceptual art. We discussed that a banana that is pinned to with a tape to the wall is also conceptual art. And this was a real art which was displayed in last year's Miami Art Fair, which sold for $12,000. So yes, somebody bought a banana, somebody bought 3 bananas, like edition 1, edition 2, edition 3. So there's a lot of talk about, I know you will not understand right now that how can somebody buy a banana? It will ultimately rot on, and yes, it will rot, but that is for later. But that banana was sold. And so we've discussed conceptual art, the Dada movement. Who started the Dada movement was started by Marcel Duchamp. How he started it, he actually took a urinal, he turned it around, he just signed it, and he called it the fountain. Why he got about this movement was because they were fed up of realistic art, although he was a painter who actually painted realistic figures at one time and was very famous with that also, he decided that no, art for him is more about ideas and concepts than realism. So it is not that these artists, are flop artists. A lot of people say, oh, somebody who doesn't know how to paint will just take a banana, tape it on the wall. Or somebody, no, these were all very good artists. They were all trained artists. If you would ask them to paint, they would paint brilliantly. But they chose to do something and bring about a movement which they thought was essential in that time and what they felt. So that. What else have we discussed? We've discussed realistic art. We've discussed realism. That is very simple. We've spoken about it many times. Realism is what? I mean, your faces, your trees, painting something that we can understand and see. What is the use of colors? We've seen the use of colors, like a very bright color is perhaps painted in happier times. When something deeper, darker colors are used, perhaps the artist painted them in more trying circumstances. When they, like, when are you sad? When you're sad, you're not going to wear a red t-shirt and roam around, right? You will feel like wearing something more, maybe a brown, maybe, something like a cream color dress or something. But so the moods affect the colors that you bring about in your artworks, around you, around yourself. So that's very important. So bright colors and the moods and the subconscious mind. So with the subconscious mind, what comes around is surrealism. We spoke about. Then we of course discussed use of color. We discussed the opposite of realistic art, which is abstract art. Where did that originate? Abstract expressionism. That was again a movement that started off in New York City in America. That started off because artists were very fed up of using the figures. They thought it was very outdated. They thought it's out of fashion. They were like, oh my God, the same old things. No, we'll just paint. We will paint something with meaning, but it will not have figures in it. And that is how that whole movement came around. Then we discussed surrealism. What was surrealism? Surrealism comes from your dreams. It comes from something that may not be true. It is something like a watch which is like leaking. It is something like you and me flying in the air and we are painting it. It's not possible. We don't have those powers to fly in the air, but we have those powers in our dreams, right? In our dreams, we could be doing anything. So that is what we do in surrealism. And then there's pop art, Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein, right? Now I'm going to run you through a very short thing on Indian art, our great monuments, great paintings and objects. That is also art, folk art, rural art, modern and contemporary art. One of the most major civilizations or oldest civilizations of Indian art was what, people? The Indus Valley civilization, which was formed in 3000 to 1000 BC. There were two very famous sites. I think most of the children, you must have studied in history, Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. And how does that get connected to art? I'm just going to tell you. How is that relevant in today's times? I'm just going to tell you. So where is Indus Valley civilization today? It is not in India. It is somewhere in Pakistan. It is in Karachi somewhere. So you see Mohenjo-daro and you see Harappa, although it was a part of India at one time, but now it is no longer part of India. It is no longer part of India. And now after the partition, after India and Pakistan separated, it falls in the region of Pakistan. Here is Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Now, what are the influences that shaped Indian culture? Our Indian culture, our land, our country was open. It didn't have any borders. So there were a lot of, except the Himalayas, there was nothing really to stop people from coming in. So there were a lot of invaders, traders, monks and travelers who came into our country to do their own spiritual journey. And this whole thing changed the Indian culture and it made it richer and it made it more sort of diverse. See, this is a map I have of that there were no clear boundaries. You see Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, but at that time you see that there's no clear boundaries. That is how people could easily come, and that is why India was invaded so much, right? We were we were invaded and dropped, and a lot of dynasties that came around because of this. Now, one of the oldest painting in India, the oldest form of Indian painting, where do you think it was found? It was found in the historic caves of Bhimbekta, and it dates like 2000 BC, 20,000 BC. So this was when, and you'll see that so many years back also people knew and they used to paint. Oh my God, where did they get the colors from? There are paintings inside the interior and exterior walls of the Ajanta caves, So that just shows us that after like so many years ago, people started painting. All these kind of paintings is like, these are all mural paintings. This is mural painting because it is done on walls, it is done on large surfaces, it is done on rocks, because obviously at that time they didn't have anything else, right? They used to just paint on the rocks. And these were called mural paintings. So what were the different kinds of paintings that Indian art really had at that time? Mural paintings that were done on walls, and palaces and havelis and temples. We all go, right? Everywhere to palaces. We go to Rajasthan, we see so many paintings on the walls. What is that? That is mural painting. Then we have manuscript paintings, which are what? Like when sometimes we see a painting with something written on it, and these are manuscript paintings. And then the miniature paintings, like when we go to Rajasthan, we see these smaller miniature paintings. I'm just going to show you the slides in a minute as to how, what those paintings look like. But before that, what was the main theme of Indian art? Mostly, what was the main theme was all religious. There were Hindus, Buddhists, Jainism. And that is why if you see around you, when you go to temples, you go everywhere, they're mostly gods and goddesses that are depicted. That was the major form of Indian art, because they just painted religion and gods and other objects also around them. Also, common life was painted and depicted in the form of paintings and sculptures. And okay, let me go to a slide where I can actually show you, see the manuscript paintings. They look like this, where they had like images and scripts. These were the miniature paintings where they depicted Rajas and Ranis and scenes from, courtrooms, and they were actually commissioned by royals, mostly kings, for the artists to paint. And I wanted to show you mural art, but yeah, you have an example of that in the earlier slide which I showed you, like on the rock and things like that. The themes we've discussed. Now we come to Indian sculptures. See, these are the Indian sculptures, and they were made in stone, bronze, terracotta, clay. Now this is the left hand side is stone, this is bronze, this is terracotta, clay, and this was one of the oldest form of sculpture which was found in the Mohenjo-daro area, and it is the sculpture of a dancing girl. So imagine, it was a bronze sculpture, which just shows that even so many years back, 2300 to 1750 BC, people actually made bronze sculptures. They knew how to do it. They made terracotta sculptures, and they made paintings as well. So this is what we know. Also, geography has a very important part in Indian sculptures. If you see, like the first image of a Buddha is from the Gandhara, area, region, and the middle one is from the Mathura region, and the extreme right hand side is from south. So you'll see the same image of a Buddha is very different from 3 different regions because of different influences. The material that they used was something that was found in that particular region. Suppose there was a stone found in abundance in the Gandhara region, so they made the sculptures of stone. Suppose bronze was found in abundance or in down south, they made their sculptures in bronze. So all these things also affected the look and feel of the sculpture. Dancing girl, we discussed, manuscript paintings, miniature paintings. There were a lot of, the earliest form of sculptures that were found were the Ajanta Ellora caves, and look at the way this has been carved out from stones directly.
We are running out of time, Meghna.
And yeah, I'm just finishing off. It is what we know now is the most ancient civilization, Indus Valley civilization, the most ancient paintings and sculptures. We have the dancing girl, And oh my God, I forgot to put an image of a priest, which is very famous, but I'll next time. We've seen different kinds of paintings, different themes in paintings and sculptures, and how they are carved and the materials that were used in sculpture making. So now we are running out of time, and I think we have had enough talking. So thank you so much, people, and keep learning. And whatever you want to ask me, now you can ask me questions. Thank you.